Yes, but
Thursday, May 17th, 2018, Board of Education meeting to order. It's 7 p.m., I believe. Mary, can we have roll call?
Chairman Papa Holzer.
Here.
Vice Chair Onofrio.
Here.
Secretary Sienna.
Here.
Janet Balsamo.
Here.
Carolyn Candelora.
Here.
Vincent Mace.
Here.
Cynthia Rice.
Here.
We salute the flag.
It's right now.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was the best sound ever, hearing you guys say the Pledge of Allegiance. It actually quieted me for a minute, and I'm very rarely hushed. Visitors? No? Student representatives?
Prom night.
It's prom night.
It is prom night. Yes.
Okay, I guess they're not here. They're enjoying their prom. Approval of the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the April 12th, 2018 Board of Education meeting as submitted.
I'll second it, and then I have a question.
Discussion?
Yes, on page 8 of 9, I don't know if it's a typo.
On page
but-
8 of 9?
Of 9. It says, pass 6-0 in a roll call vote with one. Should there be something after the one?
Where?
Right. I can't
Is
hear
it like
either.
one abstention or something? Right. I mean, it's just a...
Yep. I'll take care of it.
That was the only question I had.
Oh, at the bottom.
Oh,
What
here.
was it supposed to be, Mary?
It was just supposed to be roll call vote. There was no extension.
Okay.
So that with one shouldn't be
Okay.
there?
Right.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
Nothing, she's good. So you're good, Beth?
Yeah, I just typo.
Roll call, all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions?
I will, because I wasn't there. That works, right? Then I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the April 30th, 2018 special meeting budget workshop as submitted. Second.
Discussion?
No.
Any discussion?
No, I think it was good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions?
Then I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the May 9th, 2018 board member workshop as submitted. Second.
Discussion?
Yes, I was just curious, Carol and I were both late, and I didn't know, it says absent, if like something just, do you make, I know it's noted
It told us
in the
when we
minutes,
came in.
but-
Want me to explain? So the way I was taught is at roll call, whoever's here is here, and then in bold, you write when
See, it's
people
right here.
come or go. So at the time of roll call, whoever wasn't
Correct.
here, it's marked absent.
Correct, and then here in bold it says it came at 6:40.
Yeah, I saw that, but I didn't know, because I thought there were other times when it just, on the roll call, it said late, but I could be
No,
mistaken.
I've never done it that way. Lisa Valenti told me that at roll call, who's present is present, who's absent is absent, and then you mark
Okay.
throughout the minutes.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions?
Okay. Under resignations, I'll make a motion to approve the retirement resignation of Miss Joan Williams, school psychologist at North Branford Intermediate School, effective at the end of the 2017-2018 school year after 17 years of dedicated service to the students of North Branford.
I'll second.
With much gratitude, for sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? There's no appointments, there's no leaves. Superintendent's report?
Thank you. I'd like to
recognize Joan Williams at this time. I don't know if you can hear me at the end of the table. She's been a very valuable employee of the district and has served our district with great commitment and dedication to our students, working at the middle school and throughout the district in our counseling and mental health services for our children. So we are going to miss her, and we wish her nothing but the best in her retirement and thank her for her service. Thank you.
Is she here?
She's not here this evening. We will be recognizing our retirees in June prior to the board meeting. I'll make that announcement at the end of the meeting, so we'll have an opportunity to personally thank them as well. Mary, can you hear me? This isn't ideal, this setup.
I know.
Especially with the refrigeration unit, so
It's very hard.
it's hard to hear.
I'm trying.
Do you have, well, yeah, let's turn the microphone on.
Can I get in the shape of a
We're gonna go to a microphone, and we'll start with that. Is there anything you can turn on?
Well, I can probably turn some off, just remind me to turn it back on.
Yeah, I'm going to turn it.
You leave it here.
Yeah, we can move it. We'll move it down. Yes, perfect. Barbara, I'll move this over to you when you perform. Okay, so moving on to the recognition, I'm so pleased to announce the South Central Area Superintendent's Group. We had a luncheon this past week, April 27th, honoring 6 students from North Branford. I'd like to read the students' names. They were selected by the administrative team for high academic achievement, participation in extracurricular activities, and for their community service. So it's a true honor for all of these students. Representing TBS, we got Sophia Spanier and Jack Monday. From NBAS, we had Olivia Pfeiffer and Zach Chittenden. From the high school, we had Amelia Norton and Jared Capicorda. So congratulations to those 6 students. I know it was a wonderful day, and we were certainly honored to have them there. They were accompanied by their parents, as well as, thank you.
Oh, she's here.
And district administration, so it was a great honor that day for them. We have no donations or field trips at this time. Under the Exhibit D, you have your Board of Ed briefs. If there are any questions, the administrative team is here to answer them. It's been very busy. The last 48 hours have been quite hectic, but they've done an amazing job working together and making sure that we were able to get into the schools and function and provide safe learning environments for our students. So I want to recognize them for their efforts. And if there's anything under the briefs, if not, I'm going to move on. There is a letter from the CIAC, which is a Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Conference. If you turn your tab to D, or E, I'm sorry. It is from Joe Tonelli, the CIAC Executive Staff, recognizing our hockey team. Being once again commended for their play and sportsmanship throughout, not having any major penalties. So that speaks volumes to the coaching staff and to the young men that we're putting out there that represent North Branford. So I think we can publicly congratulate the hockey team for being recognized by the state of Connecticut. Any questions up to this point? Okay, now my favorite part of the evening when we have students come and share their many talents. And unfortunately, the board doesn't have the opportunity because they live very busy lives and have jobs and careers and family, and this is sometimes the only chance that we get to have our students come and perform. So I was fortunate enough to be at the concert last evening at the high school to see our high school instrumental and vocal teams perform, and they were fabulous. And it all starts here. And Barbara has been a wonderful instructor and role model and motivational force for all of our students in building our music program. So Barbara Tedeschi is here tonight. I'm going to turn the mic. Do you want a microphone? Okay, I'm going to turn the microphone over, and we're going to hear from our ensemble from TBS. And thank you. You guys look great, too. We're so happy you're here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. We are honored to be here. We're thrilled to be asked. The students before you are all fifth graders at Kentucky Valley. They're in the advanced band. They're in their second year playing. They started in fourth grade. And they're actually a select group of students. And the whole Woodman Ensemble couldn't be here tonight, but we have most of them here. So we're really thrilled that you're here. We're thrilled that your parents are here too, supporting us. But again, I'm Barbara Tedeschi, and I teach instrumental music at Kentucky Valley. We started in fourth grade. We began fourth grade band. We have a fifth grade advanced band. We also have beginners in fifth grade, and we have about 135, 140 students in the program. It's just a thrill to work in this town. It's just a great job. These students are wonderful to work with. So we rehearse usually before school, and we've got 3 selections to play for you. We have a folk song called Long, Long Ago. Then we have an original composition called Fancy Dance by Andrew Bannon. And then we have another really fun folk song, our favorite, Old Joe Clark. So please enjoy, and thank you again for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank
We have a tradition, if the students would
Please come by and shake the board members' hands. So if you carry your instrument in your left hand and you can shake with your right hand. I don't think we have any tubas, so we're in good shape. But it truly is an honor and a privilege to have you here this evening. And one of my favorite nights in the district is the Spectrum concert, where we see our youngest musicians performing with our high school students, and you see the amazing growth. And it's hard to believe it's only your second year playing as a group. I'm sure many of you take private lessons, and thank you parents for supporting you in this, and music will be with you for your life. My two children play, they continue to play, and it's been such a great part of their life. So thank you, and if you start here, introduce yourself and shake hands with our board members. And Mary, too. Very nice.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thanks for having us. I'll go here now. It's okay for the scoop?
Yes, absolutely.
You're free to go. Thank you. Thank you once again, TBS. Okay, moving along on the agenda, we have the healthy food certification as the next item. The board is required each year to decide whether to accept an additional 10 cents per meal related to the healthy food certification. Don Winnicke will answer any questions about the healthy food certification, some of the advantages or disadvantages, and how it works in our district, and you then will have the opportunity to weigh in on it. It does not have to be this evening. You can do this during the June meeting, and I'll turn it over to Don at this time.
So these are the motions for consideration, but as Scott said, that they don't actually have to be acted on today.
They could be, you could vote on them in June, but I'm bringing them before you tonight, so if you have any questions, we can get them answered, and then you could still vote. It has to be done in June, otherwise, because it has to be done by July 1st, according to state guidelines. So, basically, there are two, what we're recommending is the same thing you have now, with the exemptions provided, and you see the exemptions are for sale that occurs after the end of the regular school day. It's at an event, and the items are not sold from a vending machine or school store. And the event means something like a game, a play, but not a practice or a rehearsal. And then new to the docket this year is the beverage standard, which is similar. As a matter of fact, the exemption would be exactly the same. So that, for example, at the concession stand at a football game, you could sell things that were not necessarily acceptable under the nutrition standards.
Don, what are the exact guidelines for the nutrition standards? I'm sorry, am I missing them? Like, are they outlined here and I'm not...
No, they're not. Those are not outlined here. It's basically the healthy food certification. I can certainly bring those to the next meeting if you'd like.
Do you mind? I just don't know what
No, absolutely. Sure.
And how has this impacted the sales of food? You know, our lunch program.
Well, this really has. There are two things at play here. If you do the first motion, that allows us to get some additional reimbursement. If you do the exemptions, that really has more to do with outside sales and really not the school lunch program per se.
I guess my question is has our school lunch program been more profitable with this extra 10 cents, or has it not been, is one question I have.
Well, it's somewhat more profitable because we get the additional 10 cents and a number of things, because one of the things, and that probably speaks to the question you asked first, is there are a number of things, there are a number of guidelines that we have to follow no matter what. Those are an option. This is really expanding that to other things and other sources, fundraisers, the coffee coop at the high school, those kinds of things that occur during the school day. If we agree to maintain the standards at those times, then we get the extra 10 cents. And the extra 10 cents comes out to $12,000 or $13,000 a year.
And I guess, yeah, if you just bring the...
Sure.
Just so I can read it, I'd have to...
Yeah, no problem.
I'd like to make a motion to table this to the June meeting so we can get, between now and then, more information from Don so we know what we're talking about. It's kind of rushing this through. I'm not comfortable with it, so I'd like to table it to the June meeting. Is that okay?
Yeah, a second.
I don't know that I don't think we actually need a vote. I don't know that we actually need a vote to table it, right?
We need
No,
to
the
make a
motion to table needs to be seconded, and there's no
Yeah,
discussion on it.
yeah.
And it has to be voted on.
At the next meeting, it needs to be voted on.
Well, no.
No, the motion to
second.
table. According to Robert's Rules of Order, the motion to table must be seconded. There's no discussion on it, and a vote has to be taken.
Wait, but I had more questions.
But that's why we're going to table until next month, so you can
But
get
no,
all
I'd
the
like to bring it
questions.
up now.
Then don't second it. Don't second the
Can you
motion.
just hold off on the second for a second, please? We had some discussion a while back ago about the high school and maybe not doing the reimbursement with the high school. Did we not, Scott?
We did. There were a period of years that we did not accept the 10-cent reimbursement for those reasons, because obviously after school or the football games and the snack bar that we have, significant monies are earned.
Well, I think there was some, we had some discussion, I'm trying to talk loud enough and not have my back, but we had some discussion a while back ago because, especially with the high school kids, they're in so early. Some of them have lunch at, 10:30, 10:45 in the morning, and they stay after school for sports. They don't get home until 6 o'clock at night. The portions that they were getting, and they didn't really care for some of the food that was being served, and the portions that they were getting. And other districts have not done the reimbursement for the high school level to allow us to do a little, and their profits had changed. Plus, the kids get more to eat. I mean, they're starving by the time they get home at 6 o'clock at night, and we had discussion about that, so.
Yeah, there is
just throwing it out there, food for thought.
Healthy school initiative. It limits the serving sizes, and you're guaranteed that you're getting 4 or 5 different groups with each meal, and I think every district saw a significant decline, especially as you mentioned at the high school level.
So if we did approve this, what changes in the schools?
Well, you're going to forfeit the 10 cents per meal, which Don equated to about $12,000. But you're then going to have the ability
to make up money for selling.
To do other things that can offset and make money for the foods program.
So can they have those sales where they would sell like for different reasons, like cookies or cupcakes? They could do that with that like at lunchtime if they don't take the 10 cents, right?
Don, the question
is... That's what I'm not sure about that. If you're interested in what all the parameters are, I would want to get back to you with that information. It doesn't have to wait till the next board meeting.
Yeah, no, that's fine, but that's why I wanted to throw this.
Or, you know what I think would be advantageous is if I had Michael Auger come in and give the information at the next meeting. We'll get that information to you through email, and then Michael will come in, and you'll have a month to come up with any questions or suggestions or things. He can answer them as our food service director, and then you can make an informed decision.
How will we have a month if we need to be voted on in June? Isn't it May now?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
She said, how will we have a
Yeah.
month because we have to vote on this next month?
Well, no, I mean, from now, from tonight's meeting, we'll get some information to you
Okay.
tomorrow or Monday, and then Michael can come and answer any specific questions that you have.
In the June meeting, and
In
then
the June meeting.
Okay.
Can you talk about budget comparisons from when we had this
Sure.
program and when we don't, and what the positive and negative impacts can be?
Absolutely.
And also, I guess we'll be able to determine like the nutritional value from the
Sure.
parameters, I'm going to guess.
And he obviously has, the expertise in seeing it and being with us now for a period of time, and some of the positives and negatives of both sides, so.
I vaguely remember this, and I could be speaking out of school, but our food program now operates in the red. Am I correct?
Correct.
Does this program, does the healthy food certification impact it in any way?
I think so.
They're asking if she can pass the microphone. because
Oh,
they can't-
sorry, I'm sorry.
You can only hear amongst yourself up there. And I know they try shutting this up, it doesn't matter, it's still.
So I was asking if, gosh, my voice is too short for that. I was asking if, because our food service operates in the red typically, if this healthy food certification was impacting that. And really what the parameters are basically nutritionally of not doing, like, I'm sure there's some kind of a standard anyway for school lunches,
Yeah.
and where the line this draws.
I'm just not sure, I don't know, can you hear me?
Mr. Schoolmaker, I know that Mr. Walker last year, this came up, he had discussions with us at the high school, visited some other districts where they opted out at the high school level, and he explored what the costs were versus the benefits. So I know he has that.
Oh, that's
Sure.
good. That's perfect. That's perfect, because I know I've talked to a few districts, and they opted out at the high school level, and they were able to sell, like additional sandwiches after school, or the kids would buy an additional sandwich at lunch or something, or a wrap or something that, they had after school before they did their sports and whatnot. So if he has that information, that would be very helpful.
I'll invite him
Okay.
for June.
All right, you can second any, I'm done. You can second anytime you want.
I'll second it now.
I guess we have to vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? None. Move it on.
Could you please pass the microphone? Thank you. I feel like I'm at
The Last Supper here. That's the microphone. Okay, moving along, the Tucket TV request exhibit. There was a letter authored by William Chody, William Chody, who was on the board for Tucket TV, requesting that we have the ability, the capacity to stream live on Facebook during the meetings. There will be at no cost to the Board of Education. Tucket TV will equip our boardroom, and those who do not have access to cable can go on through, obviously, the internet and watch our meetings live. So, it's not something that you have to vote on. It's, if you are interested in it, if you'd like more information, or if it's something that you feel you're ready to act on this evening, we could move forward with that.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I have no problem.
I have no problem with it. It's true, I mean,
Well,
not
okay.
everybody can have access
What
to
do
it.
you guys think? I think it's a good idea. Vince?
I'm in.
Okay, we're all in agreement.
Okay, I will notify Mr. Chody that the board supports going live on Facebook from Town Hall. Okay, thank you. The end of the year activities are listed below. I'm not going to go through all of them, but obviously they're starting on Wednesday the 30th, and they culminate with graduation on June 15th. There's information there for times to arrive to participate in the graduation ceremony. Are there any questions, or we're okay with it? Okay. The summer camp, I did pass the brochure or the booklet out prior to the meeting this evening in the budget portion. You should have a colored booklet. Once again, we're thrilled to be in our 17th summer of providing fun learning activities for our students, not only in our Branford, but in surrounding towns. Ms. Kim Toll and Nick Shamp are the co-directors this year. They are both high school teachers. Mr. Champ is a science teacher, and Ms. Towell is a mathematics teacher in the high school, so they're our own running our camp, and they've been with us a number of years, so we're really thrilled. I think the first day of camp opened for registration online, and I think we did over $17,000 in sign-ups in our first day, so the reputation stands. It's a wonderful, wonderful camp.
How many kids do we usually have that sign up for that?
I don't know how many students that we have. I can find that information out, but I know that the sections fill, and there's various groups, and there's on-campus activities at Tucket, and there's off-campus that they do. So I think it varies with what you sign up.
Are you asking how many specific individual students, or how many like in each group?
Just specifically, because I know like some of the summer camps have been decreasing over the years with participation
so you don't mean,
and everything.
okay.
So just to see how it is, because I just heard over the years there's been a lot of decline in different districts, different places that have personal camps. So I was just curious.
This camp has been it's an institution here. Many of our graduates were campers and then came and worked at the camp as counselors, and then they would graduate high school and come back during their college summers and work the camp, and they become like family, and I think that really trickles down to the campers. They really feel a part of it, and they do wonderful things. So I'll get you some of that data on the camp. Okay. I mentioned earlier the retirement reception, which will be held on Wednesday the 13th. Prior to the meeting, we'll have our retirees there. We'll read a proclamation and have a brief reception for it. It's always a nice meeting. Budget. We have that on the agenda. Any questions that you may have, I'll pass the microphone down. That was added to it. I don't know if anyone wants to start or...
You might as well pass it down. So at our last board meeting, I don't think we came to a budget that we agreed upon, and we have to vote on it in June, is my understanding. Am I correct?
Yes, correct.
So I'm not exactly sure where we left it, because there was so much back and forth. And we have, literally, this is my research from the last meeting to now. And I know we had a board packet that I think killed Forrest, which was very informative. Thank you. I did read through every page of it. So as it was outlined, Scott, can you just briefly go over the bullet points of how it was outlined? Like, because we had a flatline budget, basically. What was being added to it and what was being kind of removed. Just quickly, so everybody could be refreshed and on the same page. Or Don?
Don will find it. You want to pass the microphone down? So the question is from the status quo to my recommendation.
Okay.
How we got to where we're at.
Well, as you said, we originally were given a zero, but then the town council came back and added $649,122, which is 2.09%. And then on top of that, they authorized the use of the 1% reserve, which has been a statutory possibility for a number of years. And so that's in terms of what we need to accomplish. We were originally, the status quo budget was $32,191,847, and we're now looking at $31,647,175. But as I said, there are a number of things that can be used to close that gap. The superintendent's budget included, and this is slightly modified from the first take on it because of an additional retirement. The superintendent's budget would have included about $250,000 in decreases, and then another $450,000 in increases. So if you look at just decreases and you correct for a couple of retirements, that's a savings of about $315,000. The increases that we looked at retaining were about $36,000. So we net out about $280,000 on that. And then, as I said, in addition to that, if we leverage the 1% reserve, we're reasonably close to where we need to be.
So, some of the discussion at our last meeting, can you hear me okay? So it just doesn't have to go back and forth, was that we were getting an additional year of Spanish, and we were getting a communication program.
Point to additional section at the high school, which would afford about 15 students the opportunity to take a communications course. Correct.
Right. And then some of the board members discussed a librarian for the lower school, for Jerome. And I did quite a bit of research on the librarian. Tracy, can you do me a favor and speak to the role of the librarian, or Beth? She's in your school, right? Or the para. Where is she?
She's right here. No, right here.
Oh, Beth. Yeah, right, Beth. I'm sorry. No, I was looking at Beth. I thought you meant the para was here. I'm like, where is she? Can you tell us what she does? Because Tracy was explaining to me in the lower grades, it's learn to read, not read to learn. And so I was thinking, and I will say, and this is not a knock to anybody, I just didn't know. I thought a para was someone who is just kind of a high school educated individual who walks people around the library. And that's not what this para is. So can you explain her role, her credentials, and what she does, so we could all just have a better understanding of that, and her role as, basically, she's acting as a librarian.
She is. She's a huge part of our building. So what she does is she meets with every class, pre-K through second grade, once a week for about 45 minutes. She checks in and out of books weekly basis for all of our students. But more importantly, she consults with teachers and she incorporates curriculum expectations into our library.
Hang on one second.
They can't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We got members of the town council. This is important.
Okay.
Got members of the town council. I want to make sure you hear.
Well, there is a microphone right there.
Hello. All right. So in terms of what the library paraprofessional does at Jerome Harrison, she meets with every class, pre-K through second grade, once a week for about 45 minutes. She checks in and out books on a weekly basis for all of our students. She consults with teachers and incorporates our curriculum expectations into the library lessons, and this is a really, really big part of her role. It goes outside of the actual being in the library, but actually talking with our teachers about what they're doing in the classroom, and then making sure to incorporate that with some of the books that she reads to our students during the library lessons. She offers enrichment opportunities focused on promoting real-world investigations and projects and learning experiences. She teaches nonfiction duty system to all of our second graders. She reads stories to students that link to what they're working on in class, kind of what I said before. Provides students time to choose books related to their interests and read in the library as well as take home. Teaches students important library duties such as checking shelves and sorting books. She talks to parents regarding overdue or damaged books. A lot of the other kind of procedural expectations within the library. But again, I cannot stress what she does for our whole school. She is involved in everything, and talking with our teachers and bringing what the students are learning in the classroom to the library lessons. And you're right, she is more than maybe a stereotypical paraprofessional role, even though our paraprofessionals are amazing. But she really does so much for our students each and every day. Our students love going to the library and love being able to investigate and find books, and it just really motivates literature and reading, because you're right, at our level they do read to learn, but we also need to learn to read, but we also need to inspire wanting to learn and to to read books that have more content and more literature. So does that answer your question?
It does. What would be the difference between what you currently have and getting someone who has the title of librarian? What's the difference?
That's a good question. At the K2 level, it might be some more diving in a little bit more to into the curriculum in terms of what they're doing day in and day out, and maybe not just the overarching themes in the classrooms, as well as maybe working a little bit more with technology, maybe a library media specialist. However, we do a lot of technology within our building, even with our younger students, with iPads and smart boards and Chromebooks and so forth. So the technology opportunities are definitely there, but those would be two of the major things that I think would be added to in terms of the library media specialist.
Do you guys have any questions?
In the current schedule right now for rotation, Ms. Parker, how often do the students go into the library?
They go once a week.
Once a week, so they're going in one time per week for approximately 45 minutes. So that's the amount of time that they are in that library, one time a week, 45 minutes. I do want to clarify for what a paraprofessional does. I think it's multifaceted, and depending upon the population of students that they're working with, she's in a specific skill set area with students coming into her. We have special education parents who have a variety of roles. But all of them, I look at them as teacher assistants. They're in the classroom, they're hands-on. They have to know the curriculum, they have to work with student development, they have to be able to do a number of things. If we have classes of 20 to 25 that the classroom teacher can't do, and I'm not going to put Ms. Ann on the spot, but you've been in the classroom for many years and you know the value of the many things that the paraprofessionals do. And for what we compensate them, it's amazing the quality of paras that we get that stay with us, that are so dedicated to the system.
Do paras typically have like an associate's or a bachelor's, or what's
Many of our paraprofessionals do. Unfortunately, with the decline in the hiring process, many of our paras are certified teachers. So we have been hiring paras that are looking to get a foot in the door, to get the experience, to network out, and then if there is an opening.
My opinion, then our second pillar is climate, school climate, and I've walked now through every school, and I think we do a pretty good job with that, in my opinion. Actually, the intermediate school did just get an accreditation for that, if I'm not mistaken. And then the last one is facilities. And we can all hang our heads because our high school is deplorable and should have been renovated probably, God knows when. But hopefully that's changed. But my biggest issue now, and I said it in our budget meeting to Scott, is that it's the board, the administrators, and town council all driving in different directions. And we can't do that anymore because you know what? Our kids are suffering. So at this budget, I want to see some changes. And I know they can't be drastic because we have a new year coming, but they can be significant enough to make an impact. I'm very concerned about the language in the intermediate school. I don't know what my peers think, but that's something that's very bothersome when you look at the test scores, and I do have some iReady test scores. I sat with Tracy, I want to say it was like 2 hours. I felt like it was a good long time, and I asked question after question about what we can do. What would be the ideal thing to put in the school systems that would be able, we could actually measure at the end to see a product. And that's what we want to do. And even in the CAVE training, they were saying, if you're going to make changes, you better make sure that there's some data you can gain from it so you can see if it's successful. Not to do it, just because somebody wants it. So now I know we have this year in Spanish coming. For us of 8th grade, Tracy's telling us, you know what, at that end of that Spanish, several of those kids should be able to test into Spanish too. So we're going to need to wait to see if that actually happens, if that's actually quantifiable and we can see that improvement before we make any other gains in that area. But what can we do for this language program? What could we do in the budget to shift so we can see an improvement in our language program in the intermediate school. And now it's up
What
to you
language
guys.
are you talking about? Are you
The
talking about
English.
foreign language?
No,
or,
no, no.
or-
Written
language
English,
arts.
language arts, I think it's considered.
Okay.
You're asking me?
I'm asking you.
So, and actually, I just went through some other metrics today that really solidify my belief that we have to wait and weigh some of these things out. So, if anybody remembers, world language really, the instruction time in world language lessened based on the fact that we became a focus school. So when I look at some of the things that we put in place, which are, we're AST, which is academic support time, things like that, we went from a 4th percentile in high needs language arts to the 32nd percentile.
That's a big gain.
Meaning that we went to scoring that first year only above 4% of schools in the state elementary and middle schools that have high needs populations to now scoring higher than 32% of those schools. And in 2 years, that's significant. It's more significant than a lot of districts have made, and we've made those gains in math and language arts. Not as significant, but at least 10 percentage points or 9 in all areas. So that came at the expense of something. The state said to us, you need to focus on math and language arts. You are a focus school, specifically for language arts. But our scores of math were not where we want them. So what we did was put in that support time. That support time also allowed some of those high need students, which are special ed students, also free and reduced and ELL students, the ability to have that set AST time where they were not getting pulled from anything else. Meaning that before that, to go to resource room, they were missing something out of their regular curriculum. Whether it was an allied arts class, we all believe that makes a student a well-rounded student and helps them perform better everywhere. So when I look at these scores, over the last 2 years, that first year we put many things in place, we saw a dramatic jump. Last year to, the 15-16 year to 16-17 wasn't as significant, but again, it's still improving. I want to see the teachers and the students get supports in those areas so that we can even see a larger jump, to put us where we want to be. Everyone always says, well, we're 120th in spending. Well, our scores don't show that. Our scores do not show that we're in the bottom 25% of spending. But I think our scores can be even better, but teachers need supports. And supports that we provide. K-5 has seen a jump in scores in iWriting, and in the last year in some smarter balance scores. I truly believe, and I attribute that to the coaching that we had in K-5. It's not just the scores. If you ask for anecdotal evidence, there are teachers that will say to me, I hated teaching Common Core math. Now I understand it and I love it. We've done math nights where parents basically get up and applaud our math coach at the end of the evening saying that they're in tears half the time trying to help their students, and now they feel better. So if we can help parents and teachers, quite honestly, get kids where they need to be in language and language arts and mathematics, that's a priority. It's not only a priority for us in giving the best education for students, but it's a state requirement for the school improvement plan I submitted.
Where do you, so I see, I'm looking at the iReady data you gave me. Where do you think is reasonable for our kids to fall? So I see that there's a column for below level, including emerging, on level, and above level. Like, what is a successful school's ratio?
So it depends on what you're looking at. I think that an ambitious goal based on our scores and scores around us would be that if we were between, well, I'll put it this way, most schools have a 70% as a goal. 70% at proficient or making the gains that are expected for a student at a particular level. Because obviously if a student is at a level 1 and a level 3 is proficient, that student is very rarely going to be able to make those gains in 1 year. So the state itself has added a value-added growth metric to our accountability system. And they have for every level, like level 1 low, level 1 high, how many points a student should gain if they have normal educational experiences in a year. So I think if you take all of those, the students that hit that growth and or the students that are on grade level,
either get into grade level or on grade level, 70% is realistic. I put 80% in our mind. And I think that's ambitious, but that's not a one-year goal.
It's not a one-year goal.
I would agree. I'd say 3 years.
But you should have a measurable increase each year.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we went from 4 percentage points to 32 percentiles is that's significant. But that, again, that's Smarter Balance itself. The state is not allowing teachers to use Smarter Balance within the student learning objectives of the teacher evaluation plan because it's only given once a year. So iReady is a measure they recommend, so I would say using that iReady measure. And those will have, in what Scott's going to give you, there is some numbers. Testing won't be complete in TBS and Jerome until June 1st, obviously just because they don't have access to the same number of computers we do at the middle school. So it takes us a little longer to get through the testing because we also have to do all the Smarter Balance testing to finish that up.
Vince, do you have anything on this?
Nope.
Does anyone have any other questions or issues they want to bring up on the budget?
I would like to speak to...
Hang on.
I would like to speak to the fact that it was Linda Humphrey retired and you didn't want to replace her. And we saw today some of the great work that Barb and the other music teachers do. And I just feel, I'm always told that, sports are great for kids. They teach them how to budget their time, work harder. I think in the lower grades, which I taught it, I think that helps them. They find a purpose and they learn, some kids that might not have been able to budget their time and get their homework done. I think it teaches that at that level. And I know in the past that we have hired at different levels, like at the intermediate, there was like a 3/5 position and a 5/5 position. That's how I got originally back into teaching. And I feel that maybe we could do that at Jerome. Maybe I don't know what I don't think they have the, when I went was 5. I know high school was probably 8. Let's say arbitrarily there's 10 sessions at Jerome. So you could hire someone that maybe would do 4/10 of instruction, and that still would allow for Barb and Linda Biggs to really work with these kids. And at that position, there's probably no benefits, so it's, I just feel like that would be a good way to go. And I'd like to see that in the budget.
We had certainly many conversations about the 2 persons at Tutucket Valley, the two music
instructors at Tutucket Valley, one being obviously for the majority of the students in the music program as part of that rotation, and then the instrumental. And working with Carter and Beth, looking at a plan for obviously one person shifting down and then sharing that responsibility between the 2 buildings because they are certified to be able to still offer the instrumental program at the school. So it's creativity, it's people moving between 2 buildings.
But I feel like that's going to be stretching them. Right now, the program is very successful, and I feel that that would just be stretching them beyond. And at some point, some of the kids are going to lose. What would be the cost of bringing in a new person for less than half of the time without benefits? What would be the cost of something like that?
For 60% or 40% first year person without a master's degree? 30?
Well, no, it's probably less than that. It's probably, if the position is $50,000, you're talking about $20,000. The downside is that music is a relatively difficult area to hire. So whether we would find somebody at 40%, I'm not sure, but again, because there's no benefits, that the cost is fairly limited.
I still think it should be something we should pursue.
Is there other ways to supplement it without a teacher? Like, could you do special programs, like more, like more art programs?
Well, the other question is it a high priority for the administrator of the building as well?
That was going to be my next point. When you look at the superintendent's budget, and we've gone through, obviously, countless meetings looking at what our highest priorities were, the coaching piece at the middle school was first and foremost. And we believed that was an area of focus that we needed to, if we were going to increase anywhere, that we would start with those two positions. We did have conversations about the scheduling piece, and I don't know if Carter or Beth want to speak to the schedule that they put in place to be able to accommodate. For many years, Tentucket has been very fortunate to have 2 music teachers. I don't think there's many elementary 3-5 buildings that have 2 music teachers. And you know, as I've said over and over again, when we have to make these difficult decisions, when we have to pick and choose, obviously it's going to come out of somewhere. And I understand the arts. We've grown the arts in the last number of years. We've been able to grow our music program, and the finished product is outstanding. And I support it 110%. But it's that, where does it give? So do you want to speak to the scheduling with the 2 buildings?
So I would echo Scott's point. Obviously, in a budget, it's not my priority to want to cut anything, but we're in a position where we have to make choices, and you know, when we have to make those choices, there are those hard decisions. So when you're looking at class sizes of 24, 25 kids a class, and you're looking at a building that doesn't have a lot of options of where to cut staff members, this is an option, unfortunately, we have to look at. If there's $30,000 in the budget that you give us back, that would be wonderful to help with that. But as it is now, expecting that it's not going to happen, our schedule has been modified significantly. And, you know, there will be an impact. Right now, Mrs. Tedeschi is able to meet with students by instrument and provide a lot of one-on-one coaching. In the new model of the schedule, there will be less of that. She'll be needing to pull kids more in larger groups. She'll be needing to teach general music classes. We'll be able to share Mrs. Franklin-Biggs in the morning and offer our 5th graders a choice of doing band or chorus with both teachers available. And then our 3rd and 4th graders will need to take general music, and the 4th graders will need to fit band in during their schedule. We're going to create some flexibility on our Friday schedule where both teachers will be there in the morning where we can do rehearsals. So it's different. It's still offering the programs the best that we can under the constraints that we have.
But they'll be.
Does that answer your question?
Well, but they'll be pulled away so there'll be less contact time at TVES just so that they can go to Jerome, correct?
I don't follow you. So
they'll be doing less contact with students at TVES because someone's going to have to travel to Jerome.
Essentially, there'll be less individualized band time than there is currently. That's a fair statement.
Personally, I'd rather see the music person than the coach. That's me.
Yeah.
I do.
You guys find the money, we'll make things happen.
Yeah.
I do.
I think one of the things we need to consider, well, Beth, I disagree with you on that personally, but that's why we have a board of 7. But one of the things I think we need to look at is how the budget, the superintendent's goals, and the curriculum link together, because they all need to be measured and definable, and we will measure Scott on the curriculum, which is driven by the budget. So I think as we move towards our next evaluation and our next budget season, we're not going to be in this position because we're going to know, because we're going to sit with Scott and he's going to outline 3 top priorities for education that are his goals that he will be measured on. So next year, it's going to be linking all 3 of the pieces of this pie, and it's going to be much easier for us. Now we're kind of saying, hey, we need a few educational movements forward to get us going, because while we see our scores now, we just don't think we're doing the best for our kids. And I think whether we agree on a music person or a coach, or we might all have our different ideas of what's best, we all want to see something more. And I think that's the fair statement.
I agree.
you know, we have to vote on this budget next month, essentially, and I, for one, would like you to be able to say when you're presenting the budget, not as is with how it's outlined currently. I would like to see 3 advancements that we can measure for the end of next year that will link into your goals. And be creative with the budget. As we learned in CAVE, I can't say, all right, well, you should get rid of the custodian, the school bus, and the whatever, because it's not right for me to micromanage that. However, to say we're not fulfilling our educational obligation to these children is well within the board's right.
Yeah.
Now I don't have anything to say.
Well, we're gonna see the data on the world language, the Spanish. We're gonna see the data, so that's one of them.
Yeah. And then Scott and Tracy and the administrators need to come up with some other options to present to us.
Creativity.
And where it will be taken from, how to fund it.
I believe, you know, going into the budget, the budget itself, based on what you voted on in February, was it February? You know, we started planning on that, especially once the town council made adjustments. And there are a few things that, you know, that we have set priorities for that we can manage within what we have to be creative. And I think it's important to do that. One of the things with coaches, you know, world language is great in the 8th grade, but again, we're now taking everyone except the students that have identified needs and IEPs to take world language. Those students are the students I just mentioned that are the non-special ed high needs students that just went up 30 percentiles. It scares me. You know, if those students need the support, I agree. I would love everyone to have world language. I'd also love everyone to have individualized instruction that meets them at their levels. But those all come with compromises. So as you mentioned, we'd like to be able to do some of these things and then review achievement data to make sure they're working or not working before we then give up and change things to get one thing.
Right, so that, I guess that's what we're saying is come up with a plan that you know is working, present it, how it will be measured, how it will be linked to the budget, and we'll move it forward this year and measure it at the end of next year, and how it links to the superintendent's goals. That's just one small piece of it, the evaluation, but obviously Scott drives part of that. So it's all about, you know.
You know, I think the administrators have done a great job with compromising. Everybody has their need list, their wish list, and when we get our numbers, and I think over the years they have done a phenomenal job of compromising, and even though one may want this in their school, they know this other school needs this more, and I'm willing to, you know, to give it up for that person, and
that's right. So right now, we have Spanish on the docket we all agree on, 8th grade Spanish. We've all agreed on that's fine. We're not going to push any further on it, but we want 2 other educational movements forward and advancements that we can literally have data that will show where we are now. We have the baseline and where we're going.
Right, with potentially not having an increase in the budget.
Right.
So working it in the current budget now.
That would be great.
To work on that, and I think that we have. One of those things, and Scott mentioned, is our highest priorities are coaches. So if I can creatively figure out a way to support teachers at the middle school for language arts and math throughout every content area, that would be another one. Correct?
That would be another one, correct. And then you would need to, whether it's Beth's recommendation or I don't remember what the third was in the superintendent's plan, to be honest. No, the communication.
The communication, we
Yeah.
have Spanish, 85% of the students will participate in grade 8 Spanish for 1 credit, which would then transfer to the high school starting in their second Spanish 2 in their 9th grade year. They would be able to complete 4 years by their junior year and enroll in advanced placement or switch languages. Communication currently runs at 3 sections. It would go to a 4th section, availing about 15 students the ability to participate in that class. There's usually a list for that class, so that would be a second advancement for the school or for the district. The third one is going to come down to
again, the creativity of looking internally at a position that we could shift, absorb, look at overloads to move a person into the middle school to assume that role. And knowing, as things as you stated before, that next year that if we're going to go back to a 0 in a year that we're going to have contractual obligations, we're going to have everybody naturally moving forward in the progression of their contract, we're going to have to eliminate quite a bit next year.
We may, but I don't know why it should be eliminated from educational programming or teachers. So
No,
I
we're
do
saying the same thing.
Something's gonna give, you're right.
Right, so
Something is gonna give.
we're looking at the ability to, with existing staff, be able to meet the needs of the administrative highest priority of having the coach or coaches at the middle school for grades 6, 7, and 8.
And as soon as we finish this budget, we're going to move forward and try to be ahead of the curve next year, since hopefully all of us will stay and be able to have history, a little history with this now, and move forward so we're not starting at square one.
Okay, any other questions, budget related? Or?
Maybe? No?
Okay, the next item you had on the agenda was the principal search. As part of the budget process, there were questions about administrative positions and carryover between buildings. There was information that I believe was in your package. So at the time, not knowing where the budget was going, we froze the process for interviewing. We certainly didn't want to bring people in and then obviously not move forward with the position. So letters were sent to all applicants that we were on hold in the process. So moving forward, I'd like some direction from the board if you would like for us to repost the elementary position and start in that process, or if you'd like me to start the 2.
Her term is, the contract is done this school year, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
They're 1 year.
So we need someone.
Well, they're 1 year, so then it would depend upon what we want to do with how we would move forward with that.
Okay.
So those 2 people that are that came in for those 1 year contracts, they're done.
Right.
So we need to start a search.
Right, so I mean, we need to reopen it to get someone in their place, or we're extending the contract to them, correct?
Are you talking about the administrators or the teachers that are
the principal for...
Yeah, the principal's right. So then either we continue with the model we're in, or we repost and start the process, and then appoint at the appropriate time.
I think we need to post. I don't know what the formal procedure is.
Well, no, it would be what we just had done. So we would repost, bring in, interview, and bring a candidate forward.
But you need but when they post it, they will have the salary listed.
I think I have the posting.
We talked about capping.
So this is what I learned, Beth. I actually did a lot of research on this too. So we have the posting that was originally placed. It's easy to find online, but there's also an administrator's contract.
Right.
So, which dictates the guideline of the posting. So,
who did that?
The contract. It's negotiated. The contract's
all
negotiated.
All
I didn't know this.
Teachers, administrators are under contract.
I didn't know.
So they're binding, and the administrator's contract, there's the 3-year window that they have to be at the maximum level. So you have a 3-year window to get them after that 3rd year to the maximum.
So it's a union.
It's a union position.
They're not individual contracts. It's a union.
Okay.
Principals, the assistant principals, director of special services, director of curriculum.
Subject to the same requirements as teachers' contracts. From the standpoint of the law, administrators are treated the same way as teachers.
So my question to you, Don.
I should say certified administrators. That doesn't include me.
So my question is, and this is, I've never dealt with a teachers or administrators union in this venue, only in healthcare and non-for-profits. So when someone's in an interim position, and I don't want to give numbers or figures, they go in a salary, but it's an interim position. When they move, if they're offered the position, is it like a fresh position? Or do they move at the same salary? Like, how does that work?
Well, typically when we put a new administrator in a position, they're not given the full scale immediately. They're given something less. And then, there would have to be a decision made in terms of whether to move them forward, whether to keep them at the same percentage of the, of the new scale. I mean, that's not really defined because our contract allows 3 years to bring the administrator up to the contractual level.
So we can hire in. They're done. We can hire someone coming at the low end.
At the lower end of the...
So we can, because their contracts are up, we can hire someone to come in at the beginning salary. And then 3 years they have to move up.
After their third completed year, they have to go to the maximum.
The thing is, there really is no beginning salary per se. In some situations you have steps or ranges. We don't. We have a number, and we have up to 3 years to bring someone up to that number.
So we usually, historically, I think, Don, we brought them in at anywhere.
Usually it's around 90%.
90%, and then go to 95, and then after the third year, they go to 100%.
So is there an amount that is, that they have to get to? So there's an amount they have to get to?
Yes, they're posted in their
listed for
contract.
3 years.
Posted in the administrator's contract.
So what is that amount?
Well, it varies
Depends on
for
which
the
position.
building, the position, assistant versus principal.
So we're talking Jerome here, right? So for Jerome, what could we possibly bring, like as a first year principal? What could we bring them in at? What kind of savings would we have?
What kind of savings?
Well, if we're going to hire someone new, and this is the contract, and it's the bottom amount, and then in 3 years we have to bring them up to max.
So you could look at like 90% of that current year's maximum and use that as a gauge. So
do you know what that maximum is? Can you tell me?
I don't have the contract in front of me. Say it's $100,000.
Okay.
You could bring the person in at 90%, at $90,000 the first year, 95 the second year, and then that third year, if 100 is the maximum, they can move up to the 100.
Okay, so
after the third year, they go as part of their, as Don said, there's no steps, there's no scale range between the two. It's just after the third year they get to their maximum. And it's all done through negotiations, it's no different than teachers, it's no different than any of the bargaining units. That language is...
This is 90% of this.
Withstanding until the contract is renewed.
Because that's 7,000.
Right.
Right, but 10% of this
is 15.
But yes.
Yeah, so he's just saying.
Yes, we need to move forward with the research.
All right, so that's what
this is ours?
We need that.
So what I'm...
Because no one can be left in limbo, not our principals, not our...
What I am hearing is we want to move forward with the elementary principal position. We'll repost it, we'll put it out, we'll get a timeline, a dateline. We're going to have all of those conversations as we get into the process, but we'll start with that.
Yes.
I think we should do both positions. I think at this point, it's
Do
not
both
sensible to...
Well, and I do go back to the budget, and I do go back to what we originally had and the conversations that the board had. So if you're saying to me that we're past that point and we want to repost the two positions, we will do that.
That's what we're saying.
And I'm seeing heads nod. We're all in agreement. I will post 2 positions.
What positions again?
The high school, which...
NBIS principal.
NBIS and Jerome.
I thought, Shauna, I thought the discussion was that the principal at the high school, it was either, what we suggested last time was one principal for both and then vice principals, but now you're saying to hire a principal.
We're saying hire because if it's too disruptive in this current school year, we can put that in as a goal as possible next year, but to do it now.
But we're not doing it now, we're doing it in June.
That's a whole structural change.
But if The school year begins in September. Why wouldn't you put it in? It's not like you're doing it mid-year. That would be the
Should
time.
we be hearing what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. Give her the microphone. Let her say it in the mic.
At the last meeting, we had talked about structuring it a little bit differently to try and save money because we have interim people that it was put out to Scott to maybe eliminate the position, that maybe have a principal for the high school and intermediate with 2 vice principals instead of 2 principals and 2 vice principals, to save some money and get more programs for the kids. So that's what we were discussing.
No, not everybody was discussing that.
That was something we discussed at the last meeting, and I just wondered what happened there. Now you're saying to post it.
Now, what we did was then we put the descriptions in of the assistant principals and what their roles were. So I would strongly recommend that we not even consider changing our administrative model with the responsibilities that the assistant principals carry in both buildings and the numerous roles that they handle, aside from just being certified evaluators of our teaching as part of our model and the state model. That would be something that I would strongly recommend against. And
I did read all that information, and the other thing was the evaluation, because it was like 30 each, and then you do, was it 3 times, pre, mid, and post. But unless things have changed since I was there, teachers were on a different kind of evaluation where 1 year they would have just a pre and a post, no middle, and it was done a little bit differently. So you weren't evaluated 3 times a year. Is that not true anymore?
So the number of evaluations, and I can ask the principals that are here, that you, or assistant principals, that you do in a year based on your current model is offhand.
Yeah, 3 per staff member. That I recall I worked here, then we were on and off cycle like that prior to the state dictating the frequency, and each staff member has 3 per year.
So when was that put in?
Per staff.
That was in 2013-14. That also includes a beginning of the year conference, a middle of the year conference, and end of the year conference, at least 1 formal observation, which includes a pre and a post, and the observation itself. So there are 6 meetings right there. And then you have to have at least an additional informal observation and a review of practice that can take anywhere from 5 meetings to 10.
So that being said, if looking at your split staff that you have, and I'm counting upwards of 6 meetings per staff member.
That's state mandated.
What does that equate to for each of you?
I calculated for both the assistant principal and the principal at MBIS between 180 to 200 separate meetings, evaluation, scoring of slows, scoring of indicators, about 180 to 200 separate occurrences.
Are there other teachers that have been certified to do the evaluations?
The teachers can't evaluate teachers.
So there's a difference. There were observers.
Right.
And that's the difference. So,
They can't evaluate.
So what they do, just because I read this, right? So like, it's my understanding that the principals and the assistant principals drive the evaluation and hold the meeting, and then there's a teacher observer who is
Content-specific
almost
person.
like, right, but also is maybe like a coach a little bit.
They're called complementary observers. They do have to go through training by state law. That training and the proficiency as to whether or not they are then able to do observations is determined by the district. We have an instrument to do that. But what it is that, so it is, if Mr. Stefla goes in and looks at a world language teacher, and he could look at pedagogy and, the act of teaching, but obviously we also need someone in there that knows Spanish. So the Spanish world department leader, or the world language department leader would go in and she would be a complimentary observer. So she would normally take 1 or 2 of the observations and do that so that with the teacher evaluation, domain 2 of the teacher evaluation is instruction, and part of that is content knowledge. So that has to be deemed by an expert. In the elementary schools, it's usually a lead teacher, or it could be a specialist for a music teacher, an art teacher, someone that has expertise in an area.
So we close, like, I guess my question is too, that the children's population has been going down, which is why we closed Stanley T years and years and years ago. So adding that into the calculation, our class sizes are getting smaller. Why wouldn't it make sense to share one vice principal with enrollment going down as well? I mean, if we were able to close the school, I would think we'd be able to share a vice principal.
Our certified staffing has decreased by 23 teachers in my 9 years here. So as we have declined, our special ed certified teaching staff has remained the same because of the IEP, the 504, and it being legally binding. Our certified teaching staff has declined by 23 teachers. So when I look out and I speak to, and I don't have the microphone, the average class size next year in your building is at what with your current staffing level? About 24 students. And if I look, Ms. Parker, at your class sizes next year with your current staffing levels, it's at what?
Around 20, 21.
And that's including the transitional program is 15. So that includes the transitional K1 position that you're at if it's at 21. So we have declined with our enrollment, but if you look at the number of evaluations, not observations, evaluations that they're doing in a 180-day school year, they're busy, very busy with 2 people in each building with that current enrollment. So we have been cutting our certified staff down over the years. We've done that.
Question, so you're cutting certified staff down, but misperception on my part that the admins and the clerical have gone up?
No. No.
When we closed Stanley T, didn't we get rid of a principal?
A principal left,
We didn't close
the
Stanley
nurse
T
left.
just because of
Right.
declining enrollment. But that was one principal who left.
You had, when you had the closing of Stanley T, you had 212 students in the building. So when we closed the building, we were able to move the staffing, but we eliminated the principal, we eliminated the school nurse, and other positions that we didn't need. So you had significant savings in that
But in the
year.
last few years have, other than it, has the clerical staff gone up?
No.
I'm just curious.
No. No.
No?
No. There's
Because I
still.
know you've added positions, so were they replacing people in those positions, or were they new positions?
No, they were new, just replacements. So it's the same as it's been. Don, you've been here 20 years. You know, if you look at central office and the responsibilities and who's there, if you look at the buildings, the same numbers are there that probably going back to when you were there. We just replace when we have a retirement or a resignation.
So my understanding from Kate is that we can give direction, but we can't really say what to do. We can drive priority, like we want these educational shifts and we want data showing improvement, but we can't really say you have to cut here. We can say we cannot pass the budget if it's not in the direction we're looking for, but we can't dictate the cut. That's what I understood. If I'm misguided, please speak up.
No, you're right.
So while this is one of the suggestions at this time, you'll need to ultimately decide how to get the initiatives to move education forward in the budget in alignment with the board's vision.
Just to be clear on the question you asked me before, there was a point 15 years ago where we did increase clerical staffing to some degree, but after that initial increase, it's basically remained stagnant.
Is that 2003?
I don't know exactly
That
what
would
it
be
was.
15 years ago.
When all this went down?
Yeah.
Was that when enrollment was going down and elimination of the
Well, at that point in time, enrollment wasn't dropping dramatically.
When did we
How long ago did Stanley take place?
It was my second year, so 8
years ago?
There should have been a decrease.
8 years.
Somewhere.
8 years ago.
But the clerical didn't go down. You eliminated that school, but you still kept a lot, or you said you added clerical just before that.
I think it was, again, I mean, I'd have to go back and look at the specific numbers. I just didn't, as I said, there was a point during the previous superintendent's tenure where clerical staffing did go up.
My suggestion at this point, and Mr. O'Rourke, I apologize for putting you in an uncomfortable position. I suggest that we move forward with the Jerome Harrison position and we hold the principal for the intermediate school until you decide on what you would like to, how you would like to adjust the budget. Once that's decided, then we move forward with the intermediate school principal. Is that
I agree.
Well, the only downside of that is to do the principal, it's a good time of year to post it, be able to hire, and the person would be acclimated for the school year. You don't want to start posting it in July because
I believe it would be posted June 13th or June 14th because we have to vote on the budget the 13th. So it's 1 month.
I agree with that.
Vince wants the microphone. I don't know that he needs it. I don't know either. He's loud.
You know, you sit up there as directors, and we want our kids to improve, and we want them to get smarter, or we want our test scores to go up, and here we are, they're telling us what they need, and we're trying to nickel and dime them to death. They need what they need. They can't do the job if they don't have the right tools to do the job. And they tell you they need 2 administrators, so they don't have to spend 180 days in meetings evaluating and all the other stuff. Aren't you listening? Because I'm hearing what they're telling me. You need these people, am I right or wrong? They're the experts.
Vince, I also understand we're Scott's boss. And I know there's a lot of times my boss comes in and gives me a decision I'm not particularly fond of. And our job is to oversee the budget and the education of the children. So yes, I do appreciate them. I spent over 2 hours with Tracy. I talk to Scott regularly. I see Mr. O'Rourke in that school because my daughter's there, and I think they do a wonderful job, but I think we can do better. And I know that there's places to tweak, and that's why we're saying to them, tell us what you want. This is where we'd love to move. You tell us where you cut. We're not dictating it. We're giving you our suggestions. You move it forward.
I think they told us what they wanted. Didn't you tell us what do you want? You want a principal?
But just because they're telling us what they want doesn't mean that we're all just going to say, yes, that's what you're going to get right here and now.
When the test scores are not going up and all this other stuff, okay?
Well,
because they're telling me what they want, and I'm in favor of supporting them, and I will vote for whatever they want. So, what do you need?
Excellent.
Well, you're one vote also, so.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're one vote, it's 7 of us, so.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We all agree.
But I'm here being practical, okay? I want to give them the tools, just like anybody out there that wants to do a good job, they need the proper tools to get it done.
And I'll take a
And
language
the
arts teacher
classes
over
are
a
getting larger and larger, and teachers are going down. It's not good for the kids, it's not good for the teachers.
I think
and they have to get these jobs posted now so to be ready for the 2018-19 school year.
I'm not so sure about that. I think everyone wants to give them the tools, and we all have different visions. There's going to be no attacking anybody on this board. We have done that enough. We will treat each other with respect. We can disagree, we can debate, but we will treat each other with respect. Scott, are you okay with the recommendation to go back to your team, move in the direction that we've asked, and you decide where you'd like to cut? We'll post the position for the Jerome principal, and we'll post immediately after, as soon as you decide. Are you comfortable with that?
I'm just trying to process everything that was just said. So what you would like me to do is post the elementary position as soon as I can. We'll go through a process, we'll make a decision, we'll hire, and then as part of the budgetary process, are you asking me to come back with a budget with what we feel is in the best interest of the kids, or I don't get the second part.
We're asking you to, we've said, we know that Tracy's asked for a language coach. We know you've put Spanish in, we have the communication program, and there was a music suggestion. Out of these suggestions, what are your top 3 priorities that you would like to adapt as your goals, that we're going to call them measurable, and get data, have a baseline, and move forward? So our curriculum, our budget, and your evaluation all link, and you're going to tell us where you're going to get these initiatives from. We're not telling you to cut a principal, we're not telling you to cut a librarian, we're not telling you to cut a custodian. What we're saying is, do not cut programs, please. Do not cut teachers, please. Can you please be creative in because you know the budget better than anybody else.
Right.
But one of the suggestions was to merge the administration of the high school. Not saying you have to do it, or you do it or don't do it, but where are you going to come up with the money? Once that budget is voted on, then we post the position for the principal as you see fit.
Yes.
Do I make sense? Am I making sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Are we done with the budget? For now? And the principal search?
Possibly the superintendent.
I don't know where do we stand.
I'm going to post the elementary. We're going to get into the budget process. We're going to come to a number in June, and then after June, we're going to proceed with the next position, the next administrative position.
Depending on where the money's going to bring in.
Right.
Not effective. Academics.
Superintendent's evaluation.
I'd beat that with a dead horse.
Can you pass me the mic?
Love to.
Is PowerPoint working it now? It's not.
No, it's okay. We did have PowerPoint, but we don't have the adapter, the correct adapter for it, but that's okay, because
We have more paper?
when you're throwing a curveball, you put your weight on your back foot, and you come prepared with handouts. So
I was feeling like I was lacking in those, so I'm glad you
that's all
guys
right.
did.
I'm gonna wrap one. So what you're getting.
It's different.
Thank you. So what you're getting now, paper handout, historically, many of you haven't been here, some of you as recently as the last 2 months, so I'm giving you an overview of initiatives and programmatic changes, things that I, with my administrative team, I say my administrative team, all staff members in the district have accomplished by school, and they're broken out into 3 parts of the mission statement. You do have the strategic plan in front of you. It's been referenced many times, which is our roadmap, which is the guiding principle that we build this on, so that we provide an individualized program for all children in the district. That being said, you have mentioned many things that we have talked about this evening with language and other things, and I'm not going to read this to you because we would be here till midnight, but I'm going to pass this out. And I'm going to reference as we spoke before, measurable goals, looking at standardized scores at lower levels. Tracy mentioned that some of the grades are not available because they're still testing. You can keep going with that.
No, you didn't give us all, you mixed up the piles.
So you should have 3 packets. PowerPoint would have been easier, but it's the word. So if you look at the purple sheet, you start with that. I'm not going to read the strategic plan to you. They are listed at 16 through 21. There's 3 pillars that we spoke about. Obviously, the first one being rigor, and there's strategy 1.1, 1.2. You can take the time and go through all of these. I'm not going to go through them. But some of the things that I do want to speak to is the benchmark testing that we have used, the iReady College Board PSAT. Though that's the data that you're interested in, looking at student growth over time, looking at grade by grade, great progression over time to see how our students do when they exit North Branford High School. I was fortunate enough to be at the award ceremony the other day, it wasn't a night. And traditionally, in the last years, we have had 80 to 85% of our students go on to 2 or 4-year colleges. Our students have been extremely well prepared. They've gotten into very competitive schools as a result of that. And that starts with our pre-K through 12 program. So that being said, we're doing a lot with our data teams. We've reinstated the opportunity for teachers to come together to look at student work, to discuss outcomes, and that initially drives our curriculum and what the decision-making process is at the administrative level. We also, with our PLCs, have given our teachers release time, those Wednesdays when they're given the opportunity to come together and talk about the student outcomes at work. So that's been very important, and I want to thank the board for supporting that. On page 3, continuing with rigor, you keep hearing me say the word STEM, and that's something that we've worked on. I was able to bring Project Lead the Way to the high school, and we're in the process now of adding additional courses to the high school. We also have a certified middle school teacher in Project Lead the Way, and there's been many conversations to increase STEM at the middle school, what that look like. Those are one of the areas that we are interested in. The makerspaces at TBS, we have a 3D printer and workshop areas where students are able to come in and do higher order thinking skills, work together in small groups, take charge of their own learning. We've expanded our world language program. That was one of the goals that I had set forward. You would charge me with. We've accomplished that. We were going to have 85% of our students participate in Spanish next year. The capstone program at the high school, another individualized way for our seniors to present, to take on learning in that second half of their senior year when they can get that senioritis and then delve into something, do a fundraising activity, learn a profession, spend time in the workforce and come back and then present to their peers and to a teacher. We've also been able to bring the robotics and engineering programs to Jerome Harrison and NBIS both before and after school, and the kids have really enjoyed that. So moving along, if you look through the bottom, I've just kind of highlighted them. And then our indicators are listed on page 4. I'm not going to read all through them. You can take the time and look at some of the highlights. But the language was one of the goals at the school, and we were able to accomplish that. The next sheet, if you were to look at, Tracy has talked about the SBAC results, and that on page 5. We do not have the grade 3, 4, and 5 results because of the testing. We will have those, and I'll get those to you. We're hoping in early June, the first week. But if you go down to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, you'll see the goal of increasing of 2%, 3%, and 1%. We were able to accomplish our goals with those 3 grade levels through iReady and language arts. So you're looking at language arts, we were at 66% at the end of last year. We're at 68% now of the students achieving at our goal. The increase in the 7th grade was 15%, going from 59 to 76, and then in 8th grade from 63 to 66. In mathematics, you'll see that we set goals at 2%, 3%, and 2%. For increases, we were able to increase 9% from the end of last year to the end of this year, 13% in grade 7, and 2%. Well, actually, we don't have the results there yet for the 8th grade. They're just finishing up. We should have those tomorrow. So we'll have those results tomorrow. The next. Check.
Batteries
Give a battery. Back up. Okay. I'll stand in front of you and talk loud. So the next sheet is the looking at the world language. If you go to the second 2 tiers, we're looking at this current year, a third of the students are enrolled in the Spanish program. Yeah, they have 153 hours. Next year, the bottom tier is at 85% with the same amount, 153 hours. 3 teachers will travel from the high school to the intermediate school and teach in that building. We will not move the students to the high school. It's easier to have the teachers move over. Thank you.
I don't think there's any questions on the Spanish. I think we've discussed that enough. Next on our communication, in our strategic plan about a positive school climate, we've talked about that, some of the initiatives and the recognition NBIS had received over the years, Jerome Harrison as well, looking for collaboration, work in the community. Many of our administrators are actively involved in Twitter, and they put a lot of information out on the schools and the activities, so we continue to impress upon them the importance of communication. We have PBIS currently up and running, we've had for several years, and that is, we used to feel played great dividends looking at student discipline. The number of student discipline incidents have decreased over the years, and we're really proud about where we're at with our school climate and environment. The indicators are on page 8, they're listed. There's a number of things there that many people have worked tirelessly on to do, and the CAST positive school climate was an indication of the hard work and what's going on there. North Branford, proud, the Sound have covered many newsworthy stories about the district, and we've had a great deal of success with highlighting a lot of these accomplishments. Also the Route 80 sign, if you drive by there, we're constantly trying to update that and acknowledge student successes.
Can I ask a really ridiculous question?
Sure, there's no ridiculous.
So, this is ridiculous. So, we have all your goals, and you're explaining them to us, but what format do we evaluate you in?
Well, you're going to use
I don't know what we're going to use, is my question.
CABES, you can use.
We decided not to use CABES.
Besides, so you can look at the 3, and then I'm giving you the data, and then you can say met goal and achievement, met goal with the language, with that.
Teachers on this, do you know how to do this, right?
We have, but we used to use the CABE form.
I just want to make sure we're uniform.
But we got away from it for...
So,
because you can't quantify it.
Right.
So it was just, oh, I did a good job, liked it.
And a lot of it, you don't know the answers to, so we got away from the CABE form. But, you know, he has his goals, we have to evaluate.
The 3 were the language, the one I just went through would be ready, and then the last one would be for facilities and tools for schools, and the implementation, getting that started, which we successfully did.
But do we write anything? Do we put it in a format?
You would go in and discuss, and then they came out and they made a statement last year was that we met the goals.
Right. But we have to go into executive session, and we can't do that because it's not on here, and we can't amend the agenda.
No, well, we were going to do it in June anyway. We're going to do it in June.
Right. So we need the format, though, that we are...
I'll work on that.
Not really, no.
I'll work on a format. I'll get it out to you. I'll figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, sorry.
So you could get the CABE one and like cherry pick which one was on it.
So the last was the facilities, the 3rd tier under evaluation, and one of the goals was for the tools for schools. They put a lengthy packet there. So teams were formed in each building. There's a protocol. A lot of the data is there for recommendations for school improvement. A lot of these activities will take place during the summer. And what they do is for indoor air quality, and they go around and evaluate, look at the building, the stakeholders have an opportunity to provide input, and then that is all registered and sent to central office, and then we work with our custodial team in Bill Chody to make sure that the checklist gets done. The last page is the indicators on page 11. And that just summarizes some of the things that we've achieved. So we're looking at language, tools for schools, and the student increases in the graph division.
It's up now.
The PowerPoint's working.
It's on now.
Oh.
For the last page.
I don't think we need it now.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Committee reports.
So, I've met with the paras a number of times. I have another meeting scheduled in about 2 weeks, and at this point, I need some guidance either via an executive session, or if you would rather I work through the board negotiation subcommittee, that's perfectly fine as well.
Yep, go through the subcommittee.
Okay.
Who else is on? It's you. Is it you and me on the subcommittee?
We didn't have a curriculum.
Budget and operations, done? We're still up. And I know we've heard about budgets and operations ad nauseum tonight, but
Well, I mean, basically, we looked at the status of the current budget, and there's no areas that are problematic. We talked a little bit about the budget request, about the capital budget, capital items, which were authorized by the town council, which was $100,000 for unit ventilators and $50,000 for curbing. We talked a little bit about, we are going to put an asbestos bid out, which we may or may not do depending on what the cost and the availability of the funding is. And I think that's about it.
curriculum?
We didn't have one.
Pension?
I couldn't make that meeting.
Don can give an update on pension.
I did not make the May meeting.
Wow, wow. Is that your first absence?
It's close.
Policy, Beth? We got a lot on this.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so we have some policies for first read.
Sorry.
Policies for first read. We have P1040, which is free school accommodations. There were two brought forward, an A and a B. One is just the policy with regulations put somewhere else, but the suggestion is to put the policy and the regulations together.
That was the only thing we actually included. I thought that was the direction.
Oh, you only put the A in?
Yeah, we only put the A in.
Yeah, the recommendation was to put them together. Policy P1120, student discipline, suspension, and expulsion due process. A lot of those statutory changes we have to do.
I did also reach out to our attorney on that, and they strongly suggest that we keep that language regarding the, let me find it. Because there was a question on the hearing procedure. The administration shall bear the burden of production to come forward with evidence to support its case and shall bear the burden of persuasion. The standard of proof shall be preponderance of the evidence. Our attorney feels that that basically is required by the statute. And so you really don't have any flexibility in terms of changing those hearing requirements.
The next one, policy P1140, restraint and seclusion. Again, you only put A in here, right?
Right, correct.
Where we were putting the policy and the seclusion in. The option was on page 9 and 10. And Suzanne Wright came in and spoke to us about it, and that don't necessarily do the seclusion like they
Correct, we do not use seclusion except in emergency for staff, not as a behavioral intervention.
So those are for the first read. Then we have our second read and need approval for the non-discrimination students, which it had a lot of statutory changes for us. So I'd like to make a motion to approve policy P1005, non-discrimination students as submitted.
Second. Discussion? Any discussion on policy P1005? Roll call vote?
Chairman Papaholzer?
Yes.
Vice Chair Anafrio?
Yes.
Secretary Sienna?
Yes.
Jana Balsamo?
Yes.
Carolyn Candelora?
Yes.
Vincent Mace?
Abstain.
Cynthia Rose?
Yes.
Can I ask some questions on the policy? Which one? I had, yours on two of them.
The first read or the?
I don't know. Hold on. So I was
Second,
here.
wait till they.
It was policy 1040. Is that
That's
a first?
preschool accommodations.
Yep.
A lot of that was,
So my question was, can I ask that question or not yet?
No,
It,
you can ask it.
it says programs for gifted and talented students. We don't have programs for gifted and talented students, I don't believe. So is that just put in as a general? It's on
Did you
page
hear her,
10,
Dawn, or no?
13.
I can,
Suzanne, could you speak specifically to talented and
We do
gifted?
have a specific pull-out program for gifted and talented students, but we do have a process by which we are required to identify students as gifted and talented. And there are a variety of activities, differentiated instruction, whether you call them a specific program or not, but there are a variety of instructional strategies that are used within our schools to provide, to support specifically students that are gifted and talented.
So they're challenged.
Students can certainly participate in those activities, but we do identify those students specifically.
In all levels, correct?
Correct.
And the
We don't
teacher,
identify the students at the before grade 3.
I'm sorry, what?
We don't identify students before grade 3.
Okay, but then it's the teacher's responsibility and extra staff to identify them? Who identifies them?
There's a big, it's done through the planning and placement team process. Students are given a test and that there's criteria that are established. Parents may also refer a student if they believe that their child is gifted or talented at a different time, and if that occurs, then the planning and placement team would meet and conduct an evaluation to make that determination. But we do evaluate all students, and if they meet the criteria, then a planning and placement team meeting is held to do that identification process.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I also had a question on, I think this was a second read, P 1120.
Wait till we make a motion in second.
Oh, sorry.
And then go over for discussion.
Okay.
Well, those
No, no, P1120 is not.
Oh, it's not a
Those are all
second
first
read.
Nope, it's a first read.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Are you sure?
Yeah. That's okay.
All right. So if you look on page 4 of 27 at the bottom, number 9, it says a walkout from or sit-in within a classroom or school building or school grounds is disciplinary for expulsion. However, we did have the walkout that was approved by the administration, so we did have something that I read somewhere that as long as if it was approved, this one doesn't have it. I wasn't sure if we needed to add it because it's a contradiction for our walkout of
I don't understand the question. If it's
So it
school
says
supported
here-
and it's
right,
it's
but it
not a
doesn't say
walkout
it's-
is when it's
But it
not.
doesn't say it's school supported here, does it need to? That's my question. Because I read somewhere else that it did say, I can't remember where I read it. I'm just confused. This is my
well, we
first.
can verify that with the attorney.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if that should have been included in here because it was included in something I previously read and I couldn't find where I read that. So I wasn't sure if we should.
Did you hear?
It might have been the student handbook. So I was wondering if we shouldn't add that so it's
This
all.
is the time to ask that question because it's a first read, so you can get an answer before it comes up for second read.
Okay.
So this is the time to ask that.
What was the page you said? I can't.
It was page 4 of
Oh, 4 of
27 and it's the
27.
last one. It's
Last
number
one.
9.
Okay.
But I just want to make sure because I like the way it was worded. And then this is just to protect ourselves too in case if we ever do that again where we could say it's.
Well, can't you just add it now? or-
Well, that's what she's
You
asking.
can make a motion to add it.
Well, it's only a first read anyways. It's only a first read. We're not voting on it tonight anyways, so clear it with the attorney, with our policy attorney.
I just thought it would be nice if
It's
it all
part of
kind
the
of stays
statute,
the
and she
same.
wants to add something that's going to protect the school.
We don't know.
But it might not be the place for it, so.
Right, I don't know if it's
Attorney,
because it's
just
stated in
asking.
the handbook, if this covers it or not. I just, as I was reading this, to me, that was just a little thing that went up in my head that
I
I
agree
wanted
with
to
you, because
bring.
I have it highlighted here too. We just had a walkout.
Yeah,
It was school sanctioned, so nobody
right,
gets
so
disciplined.
just to protect,
So,
right.
yeah, it certainly would make sense to obtain some guidance on that.
Yeah.
You just might need to add non-sanctioned
Right.
walkout.
Yeah.
Wow, I was up with the attorney on that one, I'm impressed.
I have it highlighted there too.
I don't give myself enough credit.
Any other questions about the first reading?
I think that was it, those were the only two I that program's for the gift that I just wanted specified. Okay, that's it, thank you.
Continuing, okay, so, policy P 2010, employment checks, statutory changes, so I'd like to make a motion to approve policy P 2010, employment checks as submitted.
I second. Discussion, she just made a motion.
She said it's statutory changes.
What page are we on?
It was policy 2010.
2010, employment
There's a
check.
microphone isn't helping Beth right now. Exhibit N still.
Okay.
And she said it was
P
statutory
2010, employment checks, they are statutory changes, so I made a motion to approve policy P 2010, employment checks as submitted.
What exhibit is that?
So moved. Exhibit N.
Any discussion? Are we okay?
Yeah, wait.
Wait.
What are we on, M?
Yes.
These are
I should
second
have tabbed
reads.
all of these.
They were in last month's packet.
Employment checks, right?
They're at the end
What
of
page?
our packet. numerically.
Exhibit M, you gotta keep going through. You're
Okay,
close,
got it.
you're close.
2010.
Yes, you did.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay, I move the motion, somebody else has a second.
I second.
It was already seconded.
I made
You
a
already
motion.
seconded.
I have you for
Marcy second.
That's fine, whatever you wanna do.
Yeah.
Ready? Chairman Papaholzer?
Yes.
Vice Chair Anafrio?
Yes.
Secretary Sienna?
Yes.
Janet Balsamo?
Yes.
Carolyn Candelora?
Yes.
Vincent Mace?
Yes.
Cynthia Wright?
Yes.
Moving on, Beth. Moving on.
Okay. Next policy, P 2210, non-discrimination employees. This was adding veteran status to the thing. And Don, I looked in the packet and I thought we were admitting Chris Lindsay and I didn't see it crossed out. Was that?
Oh, thank you. Yes, you're right, that has to be removed.
Okay, so.
So if you, I think you can still approve it with that amendment, and I'll make sure that gets taken care of.
Okay, seeing that she's no longer an employee. All right, so I'd like to make a motion to approve policy P 2210, non-discrimination employees as submitted with the change about omitting Chris Lindsay as one of the contact.
So as amended then?
Or as amended, sorry.
I second.
Second?
I did. Okay, sorry. I said that way.
Sitting this way and in this room, you really cannot hear.
What?
Let's roll call again on that.
Chairman Papaholzer?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Vice Chair Anafrio?
Yes.
Secretary Sienna?
Yes.
Janet Balsamo?
Yes.
Carolyn Candelora?
Yes.
Vincent Mace?
Yes.
Cynthia Wright?
Yes.
Okay, the last one for approval was fundraising, which was policy P 4010. And before I make the motion, I don't know if this discussion first. There was the optional section for crowdfunding, and I don't know if we ever decided, well, we had the first reading, I don't think we ever decided, so should I make the motion and then discussion? Okay, so I make a motion to approve policy P 4010, fundraising is submitted.
I second. Discussion?
So it's the last page of the packet, 3 and 4. decide we want to put in crowdfunding. Don, were you getting, were you getting information, Pam, whether,
I think we were supposed to get additional information on it.
also too, whether like that GoFundMe, that a percentage of it goes to whoever runs it rather than all of it to the fundraising person?
I don't have that in writing. I believe that's the case, but I mean, I can verify that if you want to just, because basically, the policy you have right now works except for that, and there's actually two options. You can, well, there's really three options. You can put in the use of crowdfunding, you can put in a prohibition of crowdfunding, or you can leave it silent. The current policy leaves it silent. So I can try to find out specifically how much. One of the problems with this, of course, is there's 8 different things out there now, and I don't know whether they all get percentages. I assume that has to be how some of this stuff is run. But as I said, I'll try to find more information if you'd like.
So do you want to approve it without putting either one of them in, leaving it silent, and approve it? And then, once he gets information, we can always re-vote on it.
That's the board.
Or do we table it?
I would like to table it for more information.
I can table it too.
And then we can vote on it and clear it up.
I'll withdraw. Who's second? Withdraw your second.
I'll withdraw my second.
I withdraw the motion. And we'll bring it back again next month.
So are you looking to find out just GoFundMe, or are there other specific ones that you would like to try to get information on?
If there are 3 popular ones, I would say get 3. I don't really know about that crowdfunding except GoFundMe, but I'm going to assume that there's more than one. I just don't know what they are because I don't go find anything.
Well, they have 3 listed here. I suppose we try to find those out and use that as a representative example.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yep. Jenna?
Yeah. Do you want me to use the microphone? We tabled it.
No, we didn't vote on it. We didn't vote on it.
Withdrew.
Make a motion. Yeah.
Motion to table it?
Motion to table.
I motion to table it.
Second.
Sorry.
I thought we already did that.
No, I think we talked about tabling it.
I thought we were already there.
It's late.
Roll call, just don't say it. Roll call. Yeah, no, I'm not opposed.
Chairman Papaholzer?
Yes.
Vice Chair Nafrio?
Yes.
Secretary Sienna?
Yes.
Diana Balsamo?
Yes.
Carolyn Candelora?
Yes.
Vincent Mace?
Yes.
Cynthia Wright?
Yes.
Go ahead, Jenna, now.
Okay, so I went to the ACES board meeting, which was last Thursday. Under the executive director's report, they went over the transition to PACOM, which is the new system they're using for safety auditing, reporting. They're talking about Aspire Urban Youth Group St. Stephen's Schools moving to Hampton Bridge Road. Wintergreen is under discussion. I guess there's Hampton rents Wintergreen School for $1 a year, and they might take that contract, and in which case they'll have to look into moving Wintergreen schools. They have to give them a year notice, so it won't affect immediately. They went over their bold steps 1 through 6. They had an update. We revised the payrolls for para substitutes and secretaries. We approved an increase. Yeah, so from $65 a day to $80, and for secretaries $16.99 to $17.50. We approved the calendars for the schools over the summer. They only have 2 weeks break in between. We approved the budgets for the international programming, ECA, Thomas Edison, Wintergreen, and professional development in school. They just gave updates on curriculum, various programs they're running, update on the early Head Start, and a new appointment to the nominating committee, and we're meeting again on the 7th. And that's it.
Thank you.
Nice and quick.
There's no building committee, but let's hope soon there will be. Wishful thinking with that. Communication, no meeting. New business,
So we won't need that?
We won't need it, right? Good of the board.
I would like to, of course, I always say something. Well, I don't really need this because my voice carries. Went to the award ceremony yesterday at the high school. It was very, very nicely done. Kids are just amazing. It's amazing that they're growing up so fast. So that was really nice. Christopher, along with Zelda Gandenzi, made the Scholar Athlete Award. So we had a dinner there at AquaTurf in Southington. Very nice night. And Meredith Zullo did a field trip to New York. Well, it wasn't a field trip, but it was a bus trip to New York May 5th. And we saw Phantom of the Opera. It's open to everybody. She does a phenomenal job. We go every year, so I just wanted to do a little shout out to her for putting it together. And the 7th grade went on a field trip to New York 2 days ago to see a museum, which Ava said was awesome. So those are my little shout outs.
And I just have Matt's mission is this weekend, so let's hope the rain holds off, and it's a great event and helps support our athletic department. Matt's mission replaced, what was it, lacrosse and volleyball uniforms or something. So register and go to Matt's mission.
Anything else? Visitors and press?
I'm going to be really quick because I know you administrators want to get the heck out of here. My name is Brandy Little, 36 Old Turnpike. Mr. Steffler, you must have gotten the short straw. You had to come here and not the prom.
I'm on my way to the prom.
Oh, okay. So I just wanted to say my daughter is at her senior prom tonight. Yesterday, she was at her track senior night. So this is very bittersweet because she's graduating soon, and for the past 12 years that she's been in the school, she's been phenomenal. I can't say enough about the staff, the administrators. You guys rock. And I'm just thanking you guys for 12 years of greatness. I have my son who's a sophomore, so you're not getting me rid of me too quickly, but this is bittersweet for me that she's moving on, and you guys are awesome. So thank you.
What are her plans?
She's going to Central.
Perfect.
And she is thinking about special ed.
Very nice.
After this Board of Ed meeting, I want her to get away from teaching. No offense. But, those are her plans.
Good for her. Good luck to her.
I'm very proud of her. And quickly, when you touched on the capstone, my daughter, freshman year, took greenhouse with Mr. Boudreau, Mr. B. Never in my wildest years would I ever thought that she would love something as much as she does. No pun intended, but Mr. B planted a seed that I can't begin to tell you. He is a phenomenal human being, a phenomenal teacher, and that is what my daughter did her capstone on.
Oh, nice.
She did her capstone on growing from seedlings up to, she had a stand, a farm stand selling things. So kudos to Mr. B. I adore him. I think he's a fantastic teacher, and he did wonders with my daughter through the greenhouse these past 4 years. So thank you for 12 years of amazement.
My voice doesn't carry as much as yours.
Here. I think, isn't that right there? That one's not on? Oh, that's for that.
Thank you. So I wrote a couple things down because today really
Can you just have your name and address?
Oh, I'm sorry. We're 18 Northern Drive. Today really impressed me. My daughter goes to TVS, so I just wrote down a quick little thank you and really wanted to talk about the field trip. So from a young age, our teachers teach our children to look at problems and come up with creative solutions. Today, my child was able to attend a field trip, which may have been the most impressive feat I have ever seen in a long time. My daughter came home today from the Norwalk Aquarium and did not stop talking about animal facts and details about her trip. But more than that, She identified that the school had a problem and the staff was able to create a solution. Our teachers and staff at TVS may not have taught today in a typical sense, but by their actions, their positivity, their flexibility, and their ability to problem solve, they gave our children a wonderful life lesson. So thank you to everybody.
I agree.
Anyone else? The next regular Board of Education meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, June 13th, 2018 at 7 o'clock. I believe it's at Stanley T. Again, our regular home.
Yep.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, that was...